We all love a good laugh, don't we? Har har har, chuckle chuckle chuckle, snicker snicker snicker, mwahahaha. And we can get that in video games, sometimes. So these are the top 7 video game comedies. A show dedicated to all those games that can just make you laugh. And also have the aim to make you laugh, just because some games are horribly broken and require a lot of patching for the stuff like characters not fly around and twist their heads inside out like they were possessed. Yeah, that makes it funny, but it's not actually a comedy, it's just pain. So you probably won't be seeing any Bethesda games in here. But I know, rolling that cheese down a mountain is fun, but this is more about the art form of the comedy, the intention, the execution of the joke. The hilarity ensued through it. So let's begin with number 7, The Secret of Monkey Island. This is a classic. I think we can all absolutely agree that The Secret of Monkey Island and pretty much all of its sequels are glorious comedies. Well, by 5 I mean Tales may have some issues, it tends to be a bit more dramatic, and 4 has a lot of humor in its cutscenes, and maybe not as much in the rest, but the rest of them, oh my god, they're superb, they're amazing. You will laugh your ass off, and then you will have it surgically reattached to your face. It'll fall off again because you're gonna laugh so much, you're gonna have no face, no ass, and still be content with what you've done to yourself. And if anybody asks, dude, you look like, what abomination? Show them make them play Monkey Island, and you shall now be the leader of an assless, faceless nation of people that all enjoy a good joke about you fighting like a cow. What really sets this apart is that even though it was released so many years ago, over 25 years ago, all the jokes in it still work. It's not referential humor for the most part. They are honestly well-made, well-crafted jokes in there. And I think that's a bit of a lost art. You know what I'm talking about if you ever played Sociable. Number 6, DEADPOOL. Now, I had no idea that this game was going to be actually funny. And it is. It is gloriously funny. And it can be funny because the character itself, Deadpool, knows that he exists inside a video game. More than that, the character knows the development history of the video game the character is in, so when things go bad in terms of graphics, the character will point things out. They say, oh, we ran out of budget. It's zany comedy, it's over the top, it's exaggerated, but it works. And as the game itself, it's not bad. It plays decently enough. There's a bit where things sort of feel like they were cut short and the character may mention that happened. I think you may be able to buy. It's a bit dodgy depending on when you're seeing this video because it keeps coming back to sales and going away depending on if there's a Deadpool movie approaching and if Activision really bothered to actually renew the license for the character. Regardless, if you can find it, it is absolutely a very, very funny game to play. And it's not just about the jokes. Okay, some of the jokes may be a bit on the gross out spectrum. They may be a bit juvenile, but some of them are just stupidly funny. Like when Deadpool gets bored and starts seeing Cable as a talking giant hamburger, or when Deadpool wakes up after being knocked unconscious and finds a note from Cable, which was delivered in the means of being stuck to a knife that's plunged in his chest. It's Looney Tunes style humor, and it works amazingly in the setting it has. Number 5. Sam and Max Hit the Road. If you want to talk zany humor, if you want to talk Looney Tunes, well, you cannot beat Sam and Max Hit the Road. The Telltale stuff, that was very, very comedic as well. They were very, very funny. They were good games. But Sam and Max Hit the Road, because of the physicality of the animations they could do with hand-drawn stuff, with sprites and not simplistic 3D models that they could not really take full advantage of, because at that point the games were being made, I think, by 3 people in a shed, which is still more than what Telltale currently has in terms of development power. The Telltale ones could not really achieve their maximum potential. The LucasArts one, however, that one did, straight off the bat. You control a trigger-happy detective dog that's spelling around with a psychotic rabbit thing that will murder anything it finds. Well, will threaten to murder, and if left to its own devices, would probably do that. You don't have to try and solve a mystery Yeti, of a missing Yeti, and similar stuff. It's weird, it's surreal, it's enjoyable, it's a comedy for the ages. Number 4, The Stanley Parable. Now, Deadpool may have been self-referential in itself in its own way, but The Stanley Parable is built entirely on that concept. It is a game that exists solely on self-references. It is downright recursive and it is built in a brilliantly comedic way. This is a game comedy, and I mean, it's not just about jokes it tells, it is about jokes that involve you. It is laughing at you and with you, and you are laughing at it and with it. It's a collaborative experience of one giant joke. And it boils down to the idea that you're playing as some guy named Stanley that at one point realizes that everything he's doing is being narrated by a voice that you can hear, and that Stanley can hear, and the voice knows that you can hear him. And from there, insanity ensues. And if you haven't played it, I really suggest you do so. Number 3, The Bard's Tale. Now, for a while I was confused as to what the exact name of this game was. I kept thinking it was a Bard's Tale and the old ones were a Bard's Tale, and then I switched them up, but turns out no, they were all the Bard's Tale. Well, this is a different kind of take on a role-playing game. It tries to be a bit more of a spoof of the genre, and it still be part of the genre. It's still an RPG, but it knows it's an RPG, and it plays with all the tropes, all the cliches of the genre, turning them all on their head and constantly poking fun at them. It doesn't miss a second. The first thing you do in the game is go kill some rats. Only the rats, well, it's a rat, it's gigantic, and it breathes fire. And that's just the opener. It goes on with a chorus following you around singing about how it's bad luck to be you, the prophecies never coming true. There's so many beautiful scenes to it. And of course, what really sells it is that the voice actor for the Bard is Robin Hood from Robin Hood Men in Tights, the best Robin Hood movie, Cary Elwes himself. It's just perfect casting. Number 2, Giants, Citizen Kabuto. Now, in terms of right off the bat dying of laughter, Armed and Dangerous still has the record, but Giants I feel is a bit more of a cohesive game than Armed and Dangerous was, even though Armed and Dangerous had a weapon that fired sharks. This is a game that will bombard you with humor at every point, in every cutscene and every bit of dialogue, and what's happening around the world. It's British humor sometimes, even though it's made by some people that are from California and have probably, I don't even know if they've ever been to England, but it's a certain type of humor, a humor that works pricelessly well. Tells the tale of 4 idiots that got lost while trying to go to planet Majorca, wound up on a different planet, decided to have a picnic. One of them got kidnapped, then there was Stimmy, and then the giant gorilla thing as well in the Sea Reapers. It's a game that you owe it to yourself to play. It doesn't hurt that it is a very well-made game with sprawling, gigantic maps that you can enjoy to your heart's content, while either controlling 4 Macarians, a Sea Reaper with or without the patch, and the giant aforementioned gorilla, which I'm not gonna give you a spoiler, but the gorilla is not what it seems. And number 1 is Magica. Now, I know I've started this out by saying that original humor is preferable, and Magica is, for the most part, the opposite of that, but it does it so well. Magica is filled with referential humor. It has it in spades at every nook and cranny, in every corner, but it molds it, it twists it, it fits it so well into its world that, well, it's not Seville. It is competently made. It has references that lead to something, that have a point to them or an edge to. You can decapitate the Highlander for some reason. It has references but then makes jokes out of them, because a reference on its own is not a joke. I know I'm gonna mention Seville again, so I'm gonna mention it right now, but that game marked me, even though it's 10 years old. I hated the humor in that game, even though it had so much potential, so I'm not going to mention Civil again. I'm going to mention, however, Magica, because Magica is fantastic. It's not just the references and the jokes it makes based on those references, but the gameplay itself is created to be funny, to be comedic. for every disaster that happens to you, especially in multiplayer, to be the result of one of your or your friends' stupid mistakes that will have you all laughing your asses off. That is why I would say it is one of the finest comedy games that you can play. Now, sure, I understand humor is extremely subjective, so your list, your own preferences may differ from mine, so you may have a different sensibility. You may see the funniest game as being something completely different. And that's okay. That's lovely. It means that you have your own sense of humor. Treasure it. Share it with others, unless it's about kicking puppies. Kicking puppies is never funny, so don't. Or kittens, don't. So if you have your own suggestions for comedic games that do not involve kicking small animals, unless it's in cartoon form and it's Max from Sam & Max, I actually think he does kick the cat after he shoves his hand down the cat's throat to get... But anyway, make sure to mention your own suggestions for what would be the greatest comedy games you've ever played. I look forward to your comments. Goodbye, everybody.